Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Vic throws him out of the game. He pushes Biggio. He says, "Get out of my way, Kevin. I got to go yell." He says, "Hey, did you just throw me out? You just throw me out?" And then he starts covering his mouth. Montoya's there, and he's never done anything aggressive in his life. And now he's just screaming here, "That's three. Should have been 3 out," screaming, yelling. They're all holding him back. I don't know what he's saying here, but he's got rage in his eyes.
Match, that was a John Boy breakdown on YouTube of the Twins' newest blockbuster signing, boys. Blockbuster signing.
Oh, yeah.
I love that in the Twins' quest to reach the ultimate mountaintop, the winning of a single playoff game, they've made another big splash, signing veteran starter Matt Shoemaker to a 1-year, $2 million contract. Now, Shoemaker has made a total of 18 starts over the past 3 seasons due to injury. So he should be solid in both of his starts in 2021. Yeah. I'm very, very confident.
Tore his ACL in 2019. His ACL in a rundown.
Oof, that's a rare baseball injury.
He was chasing a guy. I believe he was actually had the ball or was the fielder. And And so I read that, and I literally am so conditioned that when I read ACL, I read UCL.
Well,
okay.
Well, he's been hit off the head. He's been taking a fastball off the noggin. That happened like 5 years ago. It knocked him out.
A fastball or a line drive?
A line drive, excuse me. A comebacker right off his noggin. Then he had a forearm strain, which caused forearm surgery. I don't think it was UCL, but he had forearm surgery.
That's usually a precursor to Tommy John.
And then he had ACL surgery. So, yeah, so he's gotten the head, the arm, the leg.
He's doing well.
He's doing great.
J-Hap, too, right? Didn't Hap take a ball off the head pitching for Toronto about 4 years ago?
Yes.
Pretty serious.
So 40% of the Twins rotation has taken line drives off the noggin.
They got hard heads
the last few years.
They got hard heads. You got nothing to worry about.
You got to sacrifice your head to make the play. I know this better than anyone. It happens.
I guess.
That's the new. We are going to be better in the field. How? We will stop the ball through any means necessary.
So, boys, this is a Twins Tuesday. We've been, even during the quieter times of the offseason, up until the Twins' flurry of activity over the last few weeks, we've been having at least weekly Twins discussions. And I'll tell you, with spring training on the horizon here, we are just days away from pitchers and catchers reporting, and that'll lead eventually to spring training games, barring some sort of a COVID derailment of some sort. We can pretty much promise you daily Twins discussions once we get into the thick of this, and probably the best Twins discussions, at least top 5, I don't know, in the Twin Cities. But I have a take for you that was too big of a statement to be contained in Monday's statement segment. It had to be fleshed out over Twins Tuesday here, okay? I'm going to deliver it to you right now. I think the Twins are better on paper heading into this season than last season.
We're gonna win, Twins. We're gonna score. We're gonna win, Twins. Watch that baseball soar.
And why?
Well, let's go through the transactions.
Because I'd like to respond, but I want
is there
the backup first.
Is there a speed gun coming down here? Is this a speed trap that
I don't think this is pulloverable. Do you?
Okay. Well, I don't know. There could be a cop around the corner. You never know.
Police.
I don't think it's a completely hot take.
You never
but
know
I'm
where the
curious
cops are hanging.
I'm curious what the thought processes are in this statement.
Right.
Let's start out with the big one, okay?
All right.
The Twins have swapped out rolled up wet newspaper hitter Marwin Gonzalez, who, by the way, fraudulently threw out his 300 batting average from a few years ago as like, oh, this is why you should sign me to a 3-year contract. Yeah, well, you were banging on trash cans to hit 300 that year. But that's fine. So he was kind of a fraud. So trading out Marwin Gonzalez for one of the greatest defensive shortstops of all time in Andrelton Simmons. And I almost feel like we spent a lot of time for a couple days on that, and it's a 1-year deal, but it was kind of splashy. But then I feel like we all moved past it because then Kirk Cousins rumor started. It's not hyperbole to say
people would blame us for that.
Well,
Mackey and Judd did that.
We can wear that.
Oh, I'm fine with it.
But the Twins are swapping out a below average defensive shortstop, moving him, Polanco, to a position where he's probably going to be above average defensively at second base. And they are swapping in the greatest defensive shortstop of the last 25 years in baseball. Basically, since Ozzie Smith retired, There was a gap. There was Omar Vizquel was in there. Statistically, Andrelton Simmons is head and shoulders above anyone else who's played that position in the last 20, 25 years. And then Luis Arraez moves into, instead of a starting role, a super utility role. So that right there is a huge, huge upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
I also think the bullpen, you might say, yeah, but you lost a lot of guys like Trevor May. Trevor May is a big loss. I'm not gonna deny that. Trevor May was a really good 7th, 8th inning guy. Sometimes would go through spurts of giving up home runs every other outing. But so you're saying goodbye to Trevor May. You're also saying goodbye, I think, at the right time to Sergio Romo and Tyler Clippard. Romo was good, but there's a cliff there at some point, and I think the Twins got off the horse just in time.
Clippard I liked.
And basically use the same amount of money you're going to pay Romo to get Alex Colomé.
Yeah, that's
which is a significant upgrade.
That's a nice upgrade.
And that's the big one. You bring in an established top-end
Yep.
closer in Alex Colomé, assuming that he'll be the closer.
Yep.
And then you bump Taylor Rogers and Tyler Duffy into setup roles that they're probably better suited for anyways. And now you can mix and match with those guys in the 7th and the 8th innings. And by the way, Jorge Alcala, who showed major signs in the second half of the season last year, I think Jorge Alcala could be a huge weapon for you, maybe a 2-inning guy late in those games. So they still need to figure out what a couple of those bullpen slots look like. But at the top end of that bullpen, Colomé, Taylor Rogers, Tyler Duffy, Jorge Alcala, I really like that part of the bullpen. Eddie Rosario, he's been a mainstay in the lineup. You say goodbye to him. It would have been nice to get something for him, but sort of the state of the baseball market. You swap him out and his guaranteed 25 plus homers and he drives in runs, but he's also a low on base guy. He's not a very good defensive outfielder anymore, and he can just as easily screw up a game as he can win a game for you. And you bring in the combination of Alex Kirilloff and Brent Rooker. And Kirilloff, if he clicks right away, projects to be a better overall player than Rosario.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been in the same prospect bin as guys like Cody Bellinger just a few years later. He's younger. And so and you've seen some of these young guys like Pete Alonso and Cody Bellinger, they just click right away. Kirilloff is in that bin according to scouts and Baseball America, et cetera. He just hasn't been given the chance yet outside of the one playoff game. Rotation, I think it's kind of a wash. You're basically swapping out Jake Odorizzi, who's been banged up, was hurt and not good last year, and Rich Hill, who just can't stay healthy, for Jay Happ, who's been healthier, even though he's old, and Matt Shoemaker, who in his 3 starts should be good for you. But the top end of the rotation, Maeda, Buxton, Pineda, is basically the same. So maybe a slight downgrade there. You'd like to get one. If Shoemaker stays healthy, it's a wash. I look at all those things and I say they're much better defensively. The top end of their bullpen is better, and Kirilloff might be better than Rosario. I think they're better on paper. Fight me.
I don't want to fight. I'm too old to fight. But what I do have is a bucket of cold water.
Okay,
that's
fine.
I've got a bucket of cold water. Here's the thing. Here's where I agree with you is, and it's about time. Defensively, left side of the infield significantly improved. Significantly. It's about time. Thank God. I mean, 2 years back, you were trying to sell me a bunch of garbage on, it's fine, it's fine.
Sano
And then Polanco finally in the playoff game against the Stros makes that brutal throw, and you said, maybe it's not fine. Maybe Mackey and Judd are right. Should we improve our defense? So here's where I will pour a bit of a bucket of cold water on this conversation and bring up some question marks, okay? The lineup going from 2019 into 20, I was pretty certain because that was a team that had hit 307 home runs, a major league record, had added Donaldson, and looked damn good, okay? Now, in retrospect, transitioning from the 60-game shortened pandemic season of 2020 to 2021, here are my questions that I think are valid, and they're potential concerns, but they are to be determined things, okay? 1, Josh's calf. Like with the problem is it's clearly chronic. So it's not like, well, he had some calf problems in 2020 and now they might be gone. We don't know. He played basically a full year with the Braves in 2019, but before that had calf problems, and they came back and he played in 28 games, I believe.
Yep.
So
Miss the playoffs.
that is a major concern because if he can't play, that's a big deal. Well, like it's not like we'll just do this.
Yeah,
that's a significant question mark that we legitimately do not know the answer to.
So real quick, him and Buxton combined to miss about 50% of the Twins games last year, including, I mean, Buxton played in one of the playoff games, but he was clearly, he got picked off.
Yeah.
It was
They threw
bad.
him in concussed, it looked like is what they did.
And Cruz has been sort of banged up and old, but with Donaldson and Buxton,
yes.
So they missed about 50% of the games, including playoffs. I would actually bank on that number coming down. Like, I don't expect them to play 150 games each, but I don't think they're both going to miss a combined half the season.
I hope not.
Knock on wood, because those are the two guys that are most likely to sit out for chunks.
And my problem with those two guys is this. I also can't tell you that I'm confident, though. Like, Buxton finds ways, and I don't know why, and I don't blame him, but he finds ways to get hurt. He's chasing a fly ball in an arbitrary July practice, and his ankle almost breaks. Like, who else does that happen to?
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. So until JD and Buxton prove to me that they can play, I can't count on, it's going to be fine. Second one. Would the real Miguel Sano please stand up, okay?
I think he has.
Okay, well, if he has, in 2020, he had 204 and struck out 90 times in 205 at-bats. All right? That's a problem. If he could even get back to a semblance of the player that he developed into or appeared to be in 2019, that changes the game. He doesn't need to be that exact player. But 204, he did nothing last year. Like we started.
He got super hot for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and everyone got excited. But when the season started in July, the big question was, can he play first base? Because we all assumed, well, he's going to mash, right? I mean, he's going to hit home runs, right? He's going to strike out, but 204, 90 strikeouts, 205 at bats. If that's him for sure, that's a problem. Polanco, who I know played, I believe they said with a bad ankle for much of last year, went from 295 and really effective in 2019 to 258 in 2020. Now he's going to play second, which should help too. But that's a bounce back. The other potential bounce back here, boys, well, two of them, but one, Max Kepler.
Mm-hmm. Max
Kepler, everything across the board for him in 2020 dropped. He had 252 in 2019. That dropped to 228. His on base dropped. His slugging dropped. So is Max Kepler the guy who we saw in 2019 and were impressed by, or the guy who regressed in 2020? I don't think that we have the answer to that completely. And then the last one, and I'm just curious who this guy is Garver. 273, 31, I believe, home runs in 2019. He was absolutely fantastic. He was 12 for 72 last year. 167, okay? So this team...
He's likely to bounce back, though.
Right, but
That's actually a feather in my cap.
Right, but to be what? Like something bounce back into the middle of that?
Something better than last year on paper, which is my argument.
Thank you for that. But my point is to me that this team offensively has a lot of question marks, and I'm curious what the answers are.
But here's the beauty, okay? This team also has more.
And they might
depth.
be fine too. They might be. I don't know.
The fact that either Mitch Garver or Ryan Jeffers is going to be coming off the bench, like they're gonna split some duties, but but you've got two guys who, at their best, have been just great offensive options at that position. I think Jeffers is probably the better overall catcher when you include defense and pitch framing and things like that. Could do a deep dive on that at some point. And then Luis Arraez, this is the other thing. When Josh Donaldson goes down with a calf injury last year, you're looking around and you're like, all right, I guess Marwin or Adrianza has to come in and play large chunks of games for like a month at a time. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a huge problem. But when Luis Arraez comes in and has to play a month, it's like, is it a drop off from Josh Donaldson? Yes. To your point about Garver, the reason I would lean toward putting him in my bin of proof that they're going to be better on paper going into the season is he's not going to be worse than he was last year. he can't be worse than he
He's
was
not
last
playable
year.
then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he
can't
wasn't
play.
playable last year.
Right.
So if he can even bounce back to be like 60% of the offensive player he was 2
But
years
that's what
ago,
I'm saying
the team is better on
that
paper.
him? So I agree. I think this team has a chance to be fine. I guess what I'm cautioning is I think there are question marks now. And those things going into last year in the spring, those things I think we thought were more certainties, and now they're more question marks.
On Miguel Sano, real quick, like you bring him up and that's great, but I'm not suggesting that he's going to all of a sudden turn into something that he hasn't been for the last 5 years. My assessment of this team being better on paper includes the volatility of Miguel Sano, who, by the way, in the last 100 years of Major League Baseball, has the 6th highest strikeout rate of all time.
Yeah.
And there's a few pitchers on this list, like Lefty Grove is above him. Pitcher from the 50s.
Oh, Lefty Grove is good.
Lefty Grove.
No,
Lefty Grove.
it was before that. Lefty
Yeah,
was
baseball,
30s or the
American
40s.
Yeah,
baseball.
that's a huge name, Lefty Grove.
The only current contemporary players on
God,
this
that's
list
great.
above him are Joey Gallo, they're basically tied at 37%, and Keon Broxton, who struck out 39%
The
of his
Twitches
plate
signed him.
appearances. They signed Keon Broxton.
Yeah, he's a
Invite.
He's an invite.
minor league contract.
Yes, he's Keon Broxton. We got them all.
Oh, man.
Let's get Lefty Grove. Let's exhume him and get him. Let's get everyone. Hey, Babe
Did they
Ruth.
freeze his body?
Can they get Babe Ruth? I strike out once in a while, but I like to eat a mean hot dog.
Oh man,
I like to. So
Keon Broxton.
my three concerns are Donaldson's health, Buxton's
That's
health,
fair.
and can Sano just give you something? Like, can he not constantly strike out?
Like, Sano is so weird because for 2 weeks, and people got fooled into this. I remember Nick Nelson from Twins Daily put me in the bad takes Hall of Fame for saying, you guys, he's hot, but let's not act like you can't find a guy who hits 220, doesn't get on base, and hits 25, 30 home runs. Like, you can find productivity like you're getting with Miguel Sano, probably for a lot less money.
Absolutely.
You're paying Miguel Sano based on what you hope he can be, right? And I think the idea of what he could be 5 or 6 years ago is still stuck in our heads, and he's still young enough, and he still shows flashes for 2-3 week stretches. But baseball's not about 2 and 3 week stretches. Baseball is about a 6-month marathon season and then a 1-month playoff. Also, like a month and a half spring training. It's about having your body and your mind right for long stretches of time. And that's why I don't get super excited when I see him hit the cover off the ball for 2.5 weeks. It's like, that's awesome. But there's a lot of guys that can hit the cover off the ball for 4 months, and then their slumps are shorter. Right. He's the opposite. He puts up almost all of his numbers in like these short spurts, and then he goes dormant for a month.
Right.
And the playoffs have been sort of the same story for him. So, is there still a beast to be unleashed in there somewhere? Yeah, but like, if you're giving away almost 40% of your plate appearances to automatic outs, which is what he's doing, it's impossible to hit for a respectable average or get on base at a respectable clip. Strikeouts don't matter. I mean, I'm an analytics guy, and strikeouts matter less than people thought they did 20, 30, 50 years ago. But there comes a point where if you come to bat 600 times in a season, and right off the top, you give away like 250 or 300 of those to automatic outs, the pie chart of productivity gets a lot smaller for you. So it's a math game with Sano.
90 strikeouts and 205 at-bats is not acceptable anywhere. It's just not.
And he's not a good enough defensive player to
No,
like
hell
make
no.
up for it. So.
Hell no. But
And Brent Rooker's knocking. Kirilloff is knocking.
he's got, yeah. You don't need greatness, but I think what you need and what he didn't show in 2020 is competence. Like, his at-bats were incompetent. You can't have that.
Except for that 2 week stretch where he was harming
He was very
Killerman,
good.
and everybody put it out.
So here's my take as well, and I did a column on this for ScoreNorth.com yesterday and fleshed out this topic. So my feeling is this, and what I'm about to say is not fair, but it doesn't matter what's fair. It matters what's expected.
Doesn't matter what your name is.
My feeling is playoff berths now for the Twins are expected. And I'm going to put this as simple as possible. And it's what we've been saying on this show for months now. The pressure, this sounds so silly, but it's true. The pressure is on now to win one playoff game. But if you make the playoffs again and just, the streak goes to 19-20, I'm just done with it. I'm just done with it. You've proven that you're a good team, that you are certainly capable of being a playoff team, of being a back-to-back division champion, right? But my expectation of Rocco and the boys going into spring training this year is not, well, I hope we can get back. No, win a playoff game.
I want to create sort of a modified Mackey and Judd swear jar here on this show as we go in. The baseball season's about to start when the boys report to Fort Myers, right? My own personal swear jar is going to be if I mistakenly bring up World Series or playoff run in any way. If I at all in any of our discussions the entire year, I don't care if this team at the trade deadline is like 50-20.
They could go get Lefty Grove and you still can't say that.
I think J.A. Happ might be the same age as Lefty Grove, though. Maybe Declan can look that up and confirm.
That's
But
good.
if I at all go beyond winning a playoff game in my discussions or projections of the Twins, then you guys slap me upside the head.
One win.
You will not hear me talk about World Series. I don't care if they've got the best record in baseball on September 1st and they've traded for Max Scherzer. Everything that they do is leading up to, can they win a GD playoff game for the first time since 2004? The longest stretch in American sports, North American sports history. It's impossible. 0 for 18. It's baseball. It's baseball. The best teams in baseball are the equivalent of like 9-7 and 10-6 NFL teams. Everything gravitates toward the middle and toward coin flips, and you've lost 18 straight.
The odds are infinitesimal that you can do that.
That I can avoid. Oh, that you can.
No, both.
Yeah.
Both. But it's infinitesimal. Like, it's impossible. It's impossible. And years back, we said what? As Patrick says, at the start of the 2011 season, we all said, can the Twins finally get past the Yankees, right? Now we're talking about anybody who makes the playoffs. Come one, come all. I don't care if it's the A's, the Angels, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Kansas City A's. I don't care who it is. We're talking about one playoff win against anybody. The Astros. The Astros, I remind you, were under 500 when they arrived at Target Field to play the Twins in a best of 3, and they swept in 2. They were under 5. They're the only American League team in the 16-team playoff field that existed last season that made the playoffs under 500. They came to your park. It was a layup to win one game. Again, one game, right?
Yep. So again, that's got to be our. It's got to be our swear jar. Declan, break the tie here. Who's right? I say the Twins are better on paper going into the season, and Judd disagrees. What are your thoughts?
All right. As much as I want to drink the Twins Kool-Aid after this run of free agents that they made here in the last few weeks.
By the way, it's non-alcoholic Kool-Aid
non-alcoholic,
because
that's fine.
Because no longer are we on the World Series.
Right. No, this is not a St. Cloud WAP edition of Kool-Aid. I know that this is just normal sugar.
Let's not really call it a run,
Kool-Aid.
though. Let's call it just
an ad.
A nice little day at the store.
Yeah.
I don't feel it's really.
I think the Twins still are the favorites to win this division. The White Sox will give them hell. I think the rotation has upgraded a little bit. I like what you have more in the bullpen than you did last year. I was skeptical going in the bullpen last year. You guys had to talk me into buying into the bullpen. Tyler Duffy turned into an elite reliever. Obviously, Taylor Rogers went down a little bit, but I still think he's an above-average reliever, and I don't think he gets worse next season either. I think he finds a way to come back to who he was. Alex Colomé is one of the best closers in the game, and now you have 3 firefighters basically in your bullpen that you can pair with in a starting rotation that has basically proven you don't really have guys who can go deep into games. So that's good. Now, Baldelli has to manage those bullpen situations a hell of a lot better, not going to Cody Stashek in a high-leverage situation, the 6th, because it's the 3rd time in the order and you're starting pitchers through 90 pitches, excuse me. But I think this lineup can still mash. I still believe that the Twins should be in the playoff field, but I have the trepidations, and Phil had to watch this with me. I just want to see them win a playoff game. So yes, I think they are as good as they were last year. I don't know if they're better on paper. I don't know if I can say that they're better on paper than they were last year, but they should be in the conversation. They should be able to host a ALDS and just win a playoff game. Please, for the love of God, win a playoff game for my psyche.
Think
Half
about
my
what we're
lifetime.
asking. We're not even Like, we're literally asking for just in game one, just a nice little 9-run outburst.
All I'm saying is
just,
this.
you win that game 9-3, and then you get your ass kicked the rest of the series, and we'll still consider it a success.
If the starter is going well in game one, Rocco, leave him in. And then game two, yank the starter after the third. I don't even care at that point in time.
They should pop champagne if they win game one.
I'm popping
champagne. And then play the B lineup in game two.
I'm calling in sick the next day.
What if they allowed us to actually manage game one? Just told Baldelli, take this day off. You can come back for game two. We could leave the starters in. We could no rest and recovery. Nelson Cruz, no nap today.
No, I want him taking naps. He
plays
better with naps.
We're keeping him up.
Why would you not want him to take naps?
I needed a nap.
We're keeping him up.
Wait, so his routine is to nap, and he has the 2 best offensive seasons in Twins history, and you want to take away the naps?
Because I want to
not get to manage the Twins.
Because I want to change the luck for game one. I'm changing everything.
Okay, except the naps. You can't change the naps. Real quick, a Vikings nugget. There's a couple of Vikings things that are always sure to set Judd off, and we're going to get to one here in a second. But we have a new partner on board here with Mackey and Judd and Purple Daily, Wamatech. All right. This is especially for Judd here. Okay.
What do you got for me?
If you're listening or watching us on a broken down phone, tablet, or laptop, I think like if we had a pie chart of whose computer is most likely to blue screen and whose who's most likely to get an email from like IT saying you've used too much data this month, the company is going to have to shut your phone down.
I just got that one.
It's all good.
Then maybe it's time to break down and get a new device. You don't have to break the bank though, because Wamatech is a trusted supplier of pre-owned cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and new accessories. Wholesale prices are also available when you purchase 10 or more devices. Buy, sell, trade in, whatever you need. Wamatech is a local company that will take great care of you. You can find them online at wamatech.com. That's WAMATEK.com. Not to be mistaken for Judd's favorite 80s band, Wham.
Wake me up.
Oh, little George Michael?
Little sexy
George
sax man.
I'm excited about this. I mean, so new phone, new computer. Don't say the blue screen thing scares me though. Don't say blue screen.
What about Joe with some wireless
like blue
Bluetooth
screen.
headphones? I would love to see Joe.
I mean, if we can get
wireless
Royce to
like
learn to use Bluetooth headphones,
Exactly.
we can use Judd.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I'd do that. Sure. Why not? Help me out.
All right.
Thank you.
So Adrian Peterson
Oh, yeah.
came out yesterday.
Let's go.
And Adrian Peterson
Oh, my God.
Adrian Peterson said, and by the way, he is now 35 years old. He's turning 36 years old.
74 years
March
old.
21st.
He's 74. He just turned. It's a spry young 74-year-old.
And he has said 2 things now in, I think, 2 separate interviews the last couple of weeks. One, he wants to play for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that
Which,
was
who
my
doesn't
favorite.
want to play for Tampa Bay at
He
this
said
point?
that like the day after the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'd like to join Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. Oh, my.
Go get that ring. You know, he deserves a ring at some point. But the other thing he said is he thinks he wants to play 5 more years into his 40s so that he can break Emmitt Smith's rushing record, all-time rushing record. So Peterson currently sits 5th on the all-time list with 14,820 yards. He is about 400 yards behind Barry Sanders. He's 1,200 yards behind Frank Gore, and he's about 3,500 yards behind Emmitt Smith.
Frank Gore's still playing, too.
That is correct. Yep.
He's not retired yet either.
So Adrian Peterson still has his sights set on Emmitt Smith's 18,355 rushing yards, and he wants to play into his 40s. Your thoughts? How about him in purple at some point?
No, oh God, don't even say that. Don't even say that. He is almost certainly the one-day contract guy, right? Like he's finally done at like 52.
I would bring him back. Not this year.
On your roster?
Mm-hmm.
Are you crazy?
I would. It would be fun.
No,
especially
it
in a rebuilding year in a couple
Oh
years when
my
the Kirk
God,
thing
stop
blows up
with,
in the
No, stop with it. But here's the thing is he is continually in his prime. He is a Hall of Fame player. Okay. I always feel I need to preface it with that. So the hate that I'm about to exude has nothing to do with me not thinking that in his prime, he was a joy to watch and a great player. All of that being said, has there ever been anyone throughout the course of his or her career who has been more tone deaf than this guy? Like you're
is he tone deaf?
He's absolutely tone
deaf.
He just wants to play, man.
He's absolutely tone deaf.
Just give me the damn
The
ball.
Detroit Lions, who are the toilet bowl of football teams, along with the Texans right now, are jettisoning this guy, and he's like, "Hey, you know what'd be great to play? Tampa Bay, which just won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady." You really think that the Tampa Bay Bucks are saying, "Oh, let's see here, what do we need? AP, we'll give him 28." No, I mean, it's so pathetic and it's so sad. And everything that he does now continues, in my opinion, to overshadow the greatness that we once remembered him by.
Does it though? Like if he passes Emmitt Smith, here's my question. Okay, let's say he does, and I wouldn't put it past him physically. He has stayed healthy the last 3 years.
What league's he going to play in by the time he passes him? Because it won't be the National Football League.
Well, the XFL just got bought by The Rock and his ex-wife. So
I'm a big Rock fan.
But Adrian has played 16, 15, and 16 games the last 3 years. So he has played full seasons. He's rushed for 4 yards a carry, 4.1 yards a carry last 3 years.
I saw it last year.
All right.
Yeah.
He's still productive enough. I'm not saying that he's, an all-pro anymore, but I wouldn't put it past him physically to play until he's into his late 30s. So if someone did the math on this, that if he plays like he has to average like 700 plus yards a year for 4 or 5 more years, whatever it is, to catch Emmitt Smith. Okay, let's say he just grinds this out, a new team every year, Lions, goes and plays for the Jaguars.
I don't know. Yeah,
maybe he gets a Buccaneers in there. And he does it, and he catches Emmitt Smith, but it's this like slow crawl over the next 5 years.
It's pathetic.
I think it makes him the greatest running back of all time.
No,
especially if he gets a ring in there somewhere.
No, I disagree.
Because he'll then at his peak, he was regarded as maybe the greatest of all time. At his peak, people were comparing him to Jim Brown, to Walter Payton.
Yeah, he was great at his peak.
And then longevity-wise, Emmitt Smith did this for like 4 years. Like Emmitt Smith was
Emmitt Smith at the end was pathetic.
Yeah.
I covered a game. A Packers Cards game, it was pathetic. I wanted him to retire.
Right. But if he had,
I wanted to go down to the field and tell him.
But here's the thing.
Dude, you got to retire.
Emmitt Smith, I just want to pull this up here. Emmitt Smith with the Cardinals tacked on an extra like 12 or 1,300 yards rushing.
Yeah.
And he was past Peyton with the Cowboys. But my point is Emmitt Smith played 3 or 4 years longer where he was averaging like 3.5 yards a carry.
Yep.
So that he could pass Walter Payton.
Yep.
If he hadn't passed Walter Payton, people wouldn't put him in the conversation as the greatest running back of all time. We include Emmitt Smith in that discussion in part because of the longevity that you view as detrimental to his career.
Arizona years are things that I cannot get out of my head. It was awful. It was pathetic. It was a mistake. The Peterson thing is just go away, dude. Just it's over. Like you are now needlessly playing for the Detroit Lions. You aren't even their best back now because of your need to stick this thing out and try and set a mark that I don't think personally he's going to get to. But the reason I think also, not surprising, why he won't go away is very simple. He needs the payday, I'm sure. I believe I saw he's being sued or there's something else up now with his financial situation. So I'm sure you're correct. I'm sure he's going to keep playing as long as he possibly can just to get the paydays. But I'm sorry.
I can't believe you guys both agree on this.
It's sullied.
What do you? I can't believe you think he can break the record.
It's awful.
I don't know. I don't think it's likely he breaks the record, but I think he's a physical specimen.
He is. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, that's not the point, right?
The best Vikings running back of all time.
I wouldn't have thought that he would still be doing this at age 36.
And I don't want to see it anymore.
Yeah, I'm done with it.
Well, you're not. No one's forcing you.
Get off the stage.
Who's forcing you to watch Lions or Washington games?
Because the Vikings Lions game I had to watch. It was pathetic. I covered a Packers Cards game. I had to watch a broken down, aged, awful Emmitt Smith behind a bad offensive line. It was pathetic.
Just for the record, okay?
It breaks every Zolgadian rule of retirement.
Emmitt Smith was much more broken down than Adrian Peterson is now. Emmitt Smith was literally like barrel into the line of scrimmage and fall over, broken down.
Yeah.
Peterson is still busting off runs, and he scored 7 touchdowns last year, for God's sake.
What drives me...
He had a 40-yard run.
What drives me nuts, though, is this whole thing of, well, yeah, I'd like to play in my 40s, and I'd like to go play for the Buccaneers with TB. No kidding, Sherlock.
He wants Tom Brady to show him some of that avocado ice cream that can get him into his mid-40s. All of a sudden, Peterson looks like he's 23 again because he's hanging out with Brady.
It's been a great career, all right?
Yeah.
with the Vikings, you were unbelievable. Like you were. I give you full credit. I will recall the games that I covered him, the Chargers game, that Browns game, the Steelers game where he trucked that guy. It was unbelievable, but it's done.
All right. That's fine. Then I'll be the one in 3 years that's on this bandwagon. You've gone this far, Adrian. Don't listen to these two.
He's going to be on crutches.
You've gone this far, dude. Keep
Adrian
going.
Peterson 2-yard gain. There's the
also,
record.
here's the other miraculous thing. One more thing on this, and then we're going to debut a new Judd centric segment here. Okay, this is the most amazing thing about Peterson's career to this point. In his prime, at age his prime, I guess, was probably still 29. Most running backs are cooked by the time they're 29. He missed 15 games in 2014. That was the switch incident, right? Where he took a switch to his kid in 2014.
Yeah, he wasn't hurt.
So he missed 14 games there, probably 12 to 1,400 yards. And then in 2016, that was the year, didn't he get banged up or something? And after 3 games, was that the
meniscus, right?
He tore his meniscus and then he missed the rest of the year.
Packers early in that season.
And so that's probably another, let's call it 11 to 1,200 yards. So that's like 2,400 yards conservatively in his prime that he missed by hitting his kid with a tree branch and by tearing his knee. If you tack those yards on, he's at 17,000 right now, and he's 1,300 away from Emmitt Smith. And then he wouldn't have to play till he's 40. He could just play for a couple more years.
Yeah, well,
and then he would for sure.
Yeah, too bad.
So, all right. Real quick, Federated Mutual Insurance Company, been helping business owners in the state of Minnesota for over 100 years. And they recently launched My Shield, the online client destination for risk management resources. Now, as a business owner, think about how helpful it would be for your employees to have training at their fingertips, industry resources that can help your business reach another level of success. My Shield has resources to help your business, like safety training and videos, customizable risk management plans, handbooks, you name it. Find out more by clicking on the My Shield link at federatedinsurance.com or download the app. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Let's roll this deck. New segment alert here.
Earl Hebner.
New segment
Earl
alert.
Hebner, you gutless coward.
There you go.
You gutless coward. You screwed your friend Bret Hart.
All right, hold
you
on.
ran out of the ring. I'm very upset.
All right, new segment
Spent
alert.
Hour research.
Judd explains wrestling.
Earl Hebner.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
So Declan and I are huge wrestling nerds. We have, if you go back in the Mackey and Judd archives, we reviewed, I want to say like the first 22 WrestleManias on a week-to-week basis during the pandemic. And we still watch WWE Network on a regular basis to this day, AEW. So we've been immersed in wrestling as fans our whole lives. Judd has not. Judd, is it safe to say that you've never really gotten into WWE?
Yes. As a kid, I was an AWA fan.
So you've like the WWF and WWE product is pretty much foreign to you outside of your
I went
conversations.
I went to a match in the 80s at Met Center.
Awesome.
Which was WWF at the time, I believe.
Yeah.
That's as close as I got to caring. I believe that was, if I'm not mistaken, George Steele.
Yeah, George the Animal.
The Animal Steele. Yeah, I believe that was him.
Hair on his back.
Oh yeah, it's much like me
gross.
now.
Yeah.
It was good stuff.
Oh, it's a great
Anyway,
visual.
that's
So we've given Judd here a homework assignment. We've given him a handful of some of the top key moments in relatively recent WWE history, like the last 30 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal of this segment is for Judd to explain those key moments to us in the best way that he can.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
This week, Judd explains the Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah. So I spent an hour at least researching this, watching stuff on YouTube. November 9th, 1997, from the Survivor Series at the home of the Montreal Canadiens, the Molson Centre. Okay?
Raucous crowd.
All right.
Bret Hart friendly Canada.
I examined the screw job from every angle possible.
Good for you.
Because the easiest thing is just to say Bret Hart got jobbed because he was going to go to what at the time WCW,
Correct.
from WWF at the time before it was WWE, and that Vince screwed him. Okay, but that's not how I see it. That's not how I broke this down. All right. So Bret Hart did get screwed so it was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So
I feel like we shouldn't help him.
So
But we can answer questions.
Yeah.
the agreement was that Bret Hart was going to in his home country, in Canada, his native Canada, he had said two things to Vince. I'll give the title back, but the two things are, I don't like Shawn, so I'm not going to lose to Shawn. The second thing is, I'm not going to lose in my home country. So I'll lose in the United States, but I am not going to come to Montreal and lose my belt. And Vince said, okay. And so they came up with this elaborate thing where they were going to have, not surprisingly, mass chaos in the ring. And they were going to declare that there was not a victor of the match. And that at some point in time, Hart was going to go back and give the title back, but it wasn't going to be then. Vince gets supposedly cold feet and says, this is going to be a problem. Because he's going to a competitive wrestling company
that was kicking their ass at the time, too.
Yeah, exactly right. So there's financial problems here. So Vince says he's going to a competitive company that the next night is going to exploit the fact that he has the WWF title. And most importantly, in my research, I found that a female champion a few years before had made the same switch.
Alundra Blaze, right?
And then taken the belt to WCW and thrown it in the garbage. The WWF, the sacred WWF belt.
Yep.
On freaking live
On
television.
On live television.
Yeah.
And Vince smartly says, I don't trust them not to get Bret Hart to do the exact same thing. So he decided to pull a screw job in wrestling terms. And the only question to this day is who knew what and who didn't. And they have kept it a mystery.
It's amazing.
This is what I love. They have kept this a deep, dark secret about who knew what. But it is one of the most genius entertainment platforms of all time. Because that night, as far as I can tell, took WWF from a struggling secondary wrestling league and catapulted it and created a character in Vince. And all we know is from the clip that we played that the referee, Earl Hebner, a friend, by the way, of Bret Hart, who claims he got cold feet and had been told just before the match to call it, while Michaels had Bret Hart in Bret Hart's sharpshooter move.
I mean, think about that.
And he didn't even count him out. He just says, ring the bell, and then he runs, and he ran to his hotel. So here's my overall takeaway of this. I think in wrestling parlance, this was a work. And I think Bret Hart to this day, I think Bret Hart was in on this.
Wow.
And here's what I would like to know.
I think I disagree, but I love the fresh perspective here.
No, I
love
see
the
why.
fresh perspective.
But here's what I would like to know. And you could only do this through a very thorough audit of bank accounts. I would not be surprised if Bret Hart was a double agent, having taken WCW's payday, but also being paid off secretly by Vince, who is an underhanded bad guy. But think about if he said, because so Hart was going to sign back on a long-term lucrative deal with Vince. But then Vince did two things. One, this was 2 years before, but Vince's plan was to take the company public, which is a big deal, which means that you do not want your contracted employees under long-term multi-million-dollar deals at that time. So Vince basically told Bret, I'm going to have to back out of what we've been talking about doing. But what if he said, I'm going public and we can be successful, even more successful, if we pull this off? because this to me looks like a defining moment in the McMahon-led WWF success story.
Wow.
If you smell
That's reckless
All right.
speculation.
First of all, Declan, how would you grade Judd's explanation of the Montreal Screwjob?
That's an A. That is an
It's
A.
an A for sure.
That is an A
Thank you.
explanation. I
It was
don't. I
great.
didn't receive many A's in my educational timeline, but that is an A.
Nor did
I've
I.
never seen one.
It was great.
That was excellent.
It's an A in the explanation, and then it goes to an A plus because you brought a theory to the table that I don't think, and like as much. This is the most dissected moment in wrestling history, and I don't know that the path that you just explored has really fully been explored. In that Bret Hart, it's always been perceived because Bret Hart has made it so that he got screwed. And they had an agreement, and Vince went away from it. And then even so much as like Bret destroyed the video equipment in the ring after the match and air painted WCW on live
Jim
TV in
Ross
the
ran
arena.
out.
Yep. And then there was a documentary. This is what's also kind of fishy.
Yeah, it's
there
a
was a
good doc.
documentary team that was following Bret Hart behind the scenes leading up to this.
Yeah, wrestling with shadows.
Imagine like, oh, we're going to document Bret Hart throughout
Yeah.
this period. And then like this happens while you're documenting behind the scenes.
Correct.
Bret went into Vince's office, punched him out, gave him a black eye. And there's witnesses that saw
Actually-
him go to the Vince's office.
Actually, that's not true. Vince ran and locked the door.
Mm-hmm.
The Undertaker banged on the door and said, "You got to go talk to Bret." Vince went into Bret's room and Bret said, "Leave or I'm going to deck you." He went and showered, came back. Vince was still there. And that's when he decked him. It gets even better. It's fishy.
There's a part 2 in the doc, the Wrestling with Shadows doc that Phil's talking about, where he's in the back room too with Michaels, and he asked Sean, clears like, Sean, like, did you know about this? And typical
to God.
snaky Sean. Yeah,
Swear to God, man.
God, Bret. This is the first I heard of this. I was not in on it, man.
Yeah. Which is a lie.
Which is a lie.
So just to play out Judd's theory here, it would be genius if this was all a work to like it was a work to show that it wasn't a work, right? And it was eventually going to set up the demise of WCW, and this launched WWF into the reality and attitude era, and
yes.
Stone Cold, and
Yeah.
then Mike Tyson came in, and Vince McMahon was this amazing bad guy character. A lot of that stuff I think was impossible to plan. But my favorite part about this whole thing is Bret Hart, sour grapes for like 10 or 15 years. He finally comes back in like 2010 or something.
I watched this last night too.
But he had a stroke I think he had a stroke at one point, and
2012,
he had concussions, and his career came
with Sean, right?
and they had him and Sean sort of made up, and then him and Vince had a match. I want to say at WrestleMania
Something like that.
where Bret Hart just wore like jean shorts and beat Vince's ass with a
Classic Canadian Bret.
bat or something. So that was really good. Does this make you want to investigate more into the late 90s?
I
era
enjoyed
of
this one
WWF?
greatly. I
Yeah.
enjoyed. This was genius.
So there's by the way, there's a few more that we're going to get into with
So-
Judd here.
Who knew?
So I
Jim Ross
I
knew?
don't think it was a work. I think they screwed Bret.
Yeah.
Although as
Yeah,
Vince
100%
says,
screwed
Bret screwed Bret.
And I remember, I believe the agreement was that, yes, I'll let you win in Survivor Series, but you have to drop the title the next night on Raw. Like that was, I believe that was the penciled in agreement. Like, yes, you can win. You don't have to lose the title against Shawn at Survivor Series, but the next night on Raw, either you're gonna have to relinquish that title or you're gonna lose the title in a match.
But if I recall right, his contract was actually up after Survivor Series, and he said, I'll do you a solid. I'll come back for one more night and lose it the next night on Raw.
Right.
And Vince is like, well, I can't trust you guys to do that.
That's just
The other, so for your next homework assignment, maybe we can do this again in a couple weeks here. Let's go with the story of CM Punk's pipe bomb promo. One of the great, another one that you don't know how real it was. Did he just go rogue? CM Punk, when his contract was running out about 10 years ago,
Summer of Punk,
cut a legendary promo on live TV that they cut it because he was going too deep into like Vince's family. And the show ended, and everyone was like,
is that
did
real?
they cut his mic and end the show, or did they plan this?
The pipe
We're not
bomb,
sure.
man.
So
man.
the CM Punk pipe bomb promo will be Judd's next homework assignment.
Judd, you know too, Bret the Hitman Hart has his own WHL team, the Calgary Hitmen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Calgary Hitmen.
I did not know
He's
that.
the owner of
Oh, that's
he
very
started a
cool.
WHL team.
It's awesome.
Awesome jersey.
Dex, are you ready for your shiny moment
Yes, I
here?
am. Of course.
And now, Phil Mackey updates Judd Zolgad on the latest happenings from The Bachelorette.
All right, Declan Goff. Sorry, I'm like holding in a sneeze right now.
Oh, don't sneeze on me.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
I got to get down.
Oh, no.
I got to get below the table.
I'll put my head in that garbage can.
All right,
over
Declan.
there.
Let's go. You talk while Phil
I
sneezes.
think I swallowed it. All right.
Oh.
All right. Declan Goff gets 60 seconds to tell us everything that happened or the meaningful things that happened on last night's episode of The Bachelor. Do you want me to hit this timer?
Yeah, go for it. You can.
All right, here we go. Ready?
All right. So, not a briefer update here. We start with Heather. Heather storms in from a previous season, demanding that she wants to meet Matt. She's a best friend of Hannah Brown. They're destined to be together. All the other girls are pissed because this new girl's walking into the scene, and hometowns are 2 weeks away. Anyway, after she gets bullied, which I find ironic because these group of girls were canceling everyone else for bully culture, bully Heather. But Matt makes the decision that I'm going to send Heather home. This isn't fair to the other girls. I'm in love with these other girls. I can't put you into the fold. That's fine. But at the rose ceremony, Abigail gets the last rose, and Serena and Chelsea end up going home. But now it's hometown time. It's we get to decide who's going where. So Serena P is going to hometowns. Also, Jasenia gets sent home in the middle of her date, and then Kit calls herself out and says, I can't do this anymore. If you're not going to commit to me, I'm out. Kit's a young one. She's only 21 years old. Yep. So going into hometowns, it's going to be Rachel, Serena P, Bree, and Michelle, which means we get an Edina edition of hometowns next week on The Bachelor.
Wow.
Nice work.
There he is. Right
Nice
there.
work.
How many times did you practice timing that out late last night?
Honestly, I did it the first week. I did not rehearse this one.
That was really good.
I did not rehearse this one.
Why did she quit in the midst of her date? I don't understand that.
So I should have rephrased. So Kit, I believe she was on a group date. Phil, did you watch? Did you end up watching
I
this
did. Oh,
last
yeah.
night?
No spoilers here, baby.
So she
So much good hockey
was on a
last night,
group date.
Dopes.
And I believe she basically spills her heart out to Matt that like, hey, I'm young. She's the youngest one on the show. She's only like 21.
Yeah.
And she says
For
like,
her.
I'm not ready for kids. Like I at least like I have a 5-year waiting period before like I'm even thinking about that.
Yeah.
And Matt's made it very clear, I think from like the get-go, like I'm a little older. I want to start a family. Faith's really important to me. So Kit just says like, hey, like I want to be there too eventually, but like I'm not ready for that right now. But like I am falling in love with you and I want to explore that avenue when we get there. So then once one of the girls gets the rose ceremony, Kit goes to Matt's apartment and says, basically removes herself from the show. It was like, I can't do this. Like this.
I think I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, she removed
she
herself
waves.
from the show.
She sacrificed herself for
She
the
did.
other four.
She waves
really
bye-bye.
She did. And
Yeah.
Michelle, the
Good for
Edina
her.
girl, Woodbury native, but lives in Edina, she gets the last rose. And I was sweating.
It looked like she was gonna. It looked
I
like
was really upset.
you know what she looked
Was
like.
Barry not good enough for her?
It looked like a Sweet 16 elimination there after like blowing out the first two teams. You're like,
Totally.
oh, this is gonna be a run here.
Yeah.
So here's the real controversy too this week.
Uh-oh.
So Chris Harrison, the
Oh,
face
yeah.
of The Bachelor.
Oh, he's in
right?
trouble.
Chris Harrison.
Yeah.
So he went on Rachel. So Rachel Lindsay does a podcast with Van Latham on The Ringer. It's a great podcast.
Yep.
And Rachel Lindsay is the first ever Black Bachelorette. Well, Rachel, who's in the final four, and I think goes further, we'll see. Rachel, who's from the South, there's a bunch of pictures and social media snippets from her past that are like her at plantation parties and a lot of like racial undertones,
Yeah.
if not overtones to
there might
her.
have been a blackface thing she did at a sorority event.
Yeah, like very
not
questionable
good.
things
Not good.
that have come to the surface. And Rachel Lindsay, asked Chris Harrison about it on her podcast, and Chris Harrison basically said, "Oh, give her a break for God's sake. She's just having fun at a party," and it was like came off as like, "Whoa,
Wait a minute.
sounds like she is doing some racist things here." Anyways, so Rachel advances to the final four here, and Chris Harrison has stepped down temporarily from the Bachelor franchise.
Oh,
That's the big
no.
news. But the
I didn't know
problem
he
is-
stepped down.
He stepped down temporarily, but the problem is they've already produced this whole season.
Yeah.
And so I think they cut some of his parts out of this episode. The only times he really showed up were like, ladies, this is the final rose.
Yeah.
So
And then
he's
he
in
he
trouble
walks away. Well, he's just like,
with the network now?
the way that he came on, I listened to the podcast. He was so like indignant that he was basically like Rachel Lindsay. He's telling a black woman, listen, like, here's my take on this,
Okay.
honey, kind of a tone. And it was like,
Yeah,
dude,
not
you're
good.
talking to a black woman. Maybe you should ask what her opinion is on the subject.
Sure.
But anyways, that was the big drama this week.
Cool.
And that's Declan explaining The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
Bravo,
Yeah.
Declan.
Thanks, buddy.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, let's go find our friend Patrick Rice.
Mackey and Judd.